the submersible that imploded, and what they are distracting us from, and the USDA doing whatever they want. Follow me down the rabbit hole about current events. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the rabbit hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we're doing current events, but we're doing it differently. And I know that these aren't my most popular episodes, but guys, this one, you're in for a ride for sure. Because yes, we're going to talk about the submersible. I'm sure you guys are super over it, right? Like you've heard everything. But there have so much stuff happened while we were all like, oh no, where'd these billionaires go? Are they dead? Are they alive? How's the search going? Literally so much happened in those days while everyone's searching for this thing that we have to talk about it. So let's get into it. On June 18th, a submersible operated by OceanGate Expeditions went to explore the wreckage of the sunken Titanic off the coast of Newfoundland. I'm assuming most of you guys know most of the information that's going on because it's very current. It's currently happening within the last week. So, but I'm going to go over it anyway because what if one of you don't know what's going on? And I don't want you to have to go Google it. I mean, you should definitely Google everything or do your own research, not just Google, but whatever site that you're going to DuckDuckGo, whatever. Look up and do your own research absolutely for every single episode I do, but I like to give you guys some information so if you are lazy like I am when I listen to my podcasts, you don't have to. So, just 2 hours after this thing went down, they lost communication. They're like, that's probably a bad sign. So aboard was 5 guys, 5 people. They were actually all men because men do dumb things, and that's why women live longer, which I don't think is actual facts. I don't know how long people live gender-wise. I could look it up. I'm not going to, though. Okay, so aboard this ship was a British businessman named Hamish Harding. You had a Pakistani businessman named, I don't want to mess it up, but I'm for sure going to mess it up, Shahzada Dawood, and his son, Sulman. You had a French explorer, Paul Henry Nargeolet, who was actually known as a Titanic expert, which makes sense because he was going to see the Titanic. And then you also had the CEO of OceanGate, Stockton Rush, which I know everybody, you've seen his picture for sure if you've looked into this thing even a smidge, or if you've been on social media at all in the last week, because his picture's everywhere and everyone's like, well, he faked his own death and he killed 4 other people, whatever. He was aboard the ship as well. I mean, he's the CEO. He probably built this thing so he could go see the Titanic. Honestly, it was selfish. And the rest of these people were just paying his way. Tell me I'm wrong, because that's what happens here. So just so you know, each passenger had to pay $250,000 just to be aboard. And they didn't have fancy luxury seating, first class accommodations where they're there's a flight attendant, basically a submarine attendant who's passing out snacks. No, none of that. They're barely sitting on the floor in this thing. That's tiny. So they paid $250,000 to be aboard. Each of them. So that's $2 million. I'm assuming Stockton Rush did not pay his portion because, again, I'm sure he built this thing so that they could pay his way to go. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming. So they searched for the craft for 4 days, knowing that it would run out of air in 96 hours. So they knew that they only had a certain amount of time and that they had to find it. And they knew pretty quickly, 2 hours in, that they had lost communication and that something was wrong. So that's when, whatever. So all the while, a Canadian P3 had detected underwater noises on Tuesday. So they didn't decide that the thing had imploded and everyone was dead until Thursday of last week. So June 20th, they're the P3, the Canadian P3 was yep, something is weird. Look in this direction, right? So, and I know that mainstream media is saying that a Navy plane heard the implosion or whatever. I don't know for sure what's what and what's going on. There's so much conflicting things going on. But I know for sure a Canadian P3 heard noises. What they heard was like knocking that was in like this certain rhythm for a certain amount of time, which was abnormal for this area of the world. Here's the deal. If you don't know about military aircraft, I will give you the lowdown because I know a thing or two. I flew in the Navy. I flew on P3s, but I didn't actually, that was just for pilot training. My job was on EP3s, which is a modified P3, but I don't know much about P3s. So I called a buddy and I was like, hey, tell me things about the P3 because I'm not a P3 expert. I just like made sure the engines didn't catch fire. So P3s are submarine hunters, which I knew that. I mean, anybody knows that if you've been in the Navy or basically any military. So their whole job is to detect sounds and locations of submarines, basically like echolocation is the easiest way to describe it for like in very basic terms, not getting into all the like nitty gritty, right? So you've got a couple different things going on. You either have a sonobuoy that's an active one that's like sending out a ping, getting a ping back, like, oh, there it is. Or you have like passive ones that are out there and they just like hear things sometimes and record them. If you're super into military aircraft, you can look it up. The Navy no longer has P3s. They're all gone now. They're all replaced by P8s. None of this matters for this. All you need to know is that a Canadian P3, they still have P3s, they detected sounds and they were like, something's weird, go there, and that should be where you find things. And then now we know that the craft imploded and it killed all 5 men on board. So it is weird to me that 5 wealthy men could get into a tin can to go see the Titanic on a computer screen. Now, don't get me wrong, wealthy men are quick to jump on crazy things because they have the money to do it. For example, Hamish Harding was one of the 6 people on Jeff Bezos' like Blue Origin's mission last year to like go to space. So they went up to space, they came back down. There was only 6 people on that craft, and it was successful, obviously, because he was still alive, to go on this craft where he died. But like dude's out there just like, and he's not considered a billionaire technically, but he's got a lot of money and he's out there just like doing crazy things with it. Honestly, if I had a bunch of money, my husband would be out doing crazy things. Not me, but for sure my husband, which again, men, right? I'm sorry, guys. I'm not like trying to, my husband would laugh at that. He listens to this, so he'll probably like call me after hearing this part and be like, huh, why are you throwing me under the bus there? I'm not. He just is a thrill seeker, similar to Hamish Harding. So dude likes to jump out of planes. Cool. Do it. I don't care. You might die though. You're risks that you're taking. So the thing that gets me though about this Titanic thing is that they weren't going to actually see the Titanic. I could totally get behind it if they were going to have like giant lights and almost like in the Disney movie Atlantis, right? And have that big bulb like where you can see the Titanic and you can like explore it. Their craft was small enough that maybe they could have explored it. I don't know for sure. I don't know how big the openings are. I'm sure, it's broken in half, so they could probably see the middle. But that wasn't the case either. They had to like look through a camera on a screen that you could easily have done from the shore or the companion boat that was up top that knew that they lost communication. Like there are so many other ways to get this information that other people have already done. Literally, the director of the Titanic was like, yeah, we saw the Titanic because they sent down a craft unmanned and we saw the Titanic. So, and then he directed the movie. This was in the 90s. So you're telling me that like that technology isn't still around? It is. But these guys were like, no, we're going down there to see it through a computer screen, which I think is weird, but who am I? I don't know. I don't know what people are into. So you guys know me by now. You know that I love to find the distractions because the government's always like hiding shit from us and I just don't like it. Like, just be honest. But also, if they're honest, like we would probably have freakouts, like mass chaos. So I get it, but also like some of us want to know. So behind the scenes, well, there was like, these guys dying. And I'm not trying to like make fun of them dying. That's very tragic. And it's hard like for their families, I'm sure, to lose a loved one. Fortunately for them, they're all very wealthy people, so their families don't have to worry about like money probably for a while. But they do, like, they lost, I'm assuming, husbands and fathers. That's pretty sad. But outside of that, like, had you heard of this submersible ship thing before it went missing? Like, nobody really cared until all of a sudden it was missing. And I know, like, the search, you want to make sure they were found or whatever happened. But it just seems like it went on obnoxiously long. Like, they knew something had happened. Like, they knew that they were dead well before they announced that they were dead. And then everyone's like, I don't know why they didn't tell us they were dead. Because they needed that time, because other things were happening in the world. They didn't want you to focus on those things. You want to know what things? Because I'm going to tell you. Let's start with Hunter Biden. Okay, a lot of these things are going to make me sound very right-leaning, very Republican. I'm not trying to push political views. I'm just reporting what happened during this time. And it just so happens that the Democrats were the ones trying to hide things. Like, that's just, they're the ones in charge right now. That's it. I'm over here not trying to push any political views. It might sound very Republican. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. So we're going to start with Hunter Biden, who, honestly, I have so many, I don't even understand. Like, this guy.
Did you know that over 40% of Americans have a hard time swallowing pills? So when it's time to take your vitamins, large capsules and pills are out of the question. We know that gummy vitamins exist, but they're full of sugar, they get stuck in your teeth, and they only contain a fraction of the nutrients you need. Luckily, Easy Melts has discovered the ultimate vitamin sweet spot. Vitamins that melt in your mouth, taste like a treat, and are packed with nutrients ready for absorption, all without an ounce of sugar. For a limited time, Easy Melts is giving listeners a free 3-month supply of vitamin D3 with their first purchase. To claim your free D3 vitamins, visit try.easymelts.com/spring24. That's melts.com/spring24. Say goodbye to the old way of taking your vitamins and say hello to the easy way. Menopausal and perimenopausal women, listen up. It's time to take control of your health and comfort, and Winona is here to help. Winona is a telemedicine company for menopause care who believes that your symptoms are real, important, and deserve to be taken seriously. And for many women, this starts with hormone replacement therapy. Winona's HRT is made with plant-based, bioidentical hormones rather than synthetic ones, so it better aligns with your body to offer relief from hot flashes, weight gain, and other uncomfortable symptoms. 80% of women who use Winona find relief within just 90 days. So, what are you waiting for? Get started today. Visit buywinona.com today to start your free visit. With free shipping and the ability to pause or cancel at any time, your path to wellness has zero obligations. Use code SPRING24 at buywinona.com for 25% off your first treatment plan. That's BYWINONA.com for 25% off. Winona. Menopause care made easy.
So he pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors for failure to pay income taxes on over $3 million. And he also got illegal possession of a handgun. All on like the 21st, so Wednesday. So they asked for probation instead of prison time, even though the tax misdemeanors, like he pled guilty to misdemeanors, which should have been felonies, but they were misdemeanors. Even though, like, as they were, they should be a fine of $25,000 and a year in prison times 2 because he had 2 misdemeanors, which should have been felony charges, but he pled guilty to the misdemeanors. So let's look at what that should have been. It should have been at least 2 years in prison and $50,000 in taxes. He won't pay fines, right? And the gun charge should have been a felony. It was an illegal possession of a firearm. So instead, he was offered a pre-trial diversionary program, and if he completes the program, the government will just dismiss the charges. But they needed to cover that up because they would literally charge anyone else with felonies for this tax evasion. Felonies, guys. Like, these aren't like little tiny, like, this isn't a little bit of money. He didn't like hide $300, like, oh, I'm not going to pay it. No, the $3 million. How come they're going after Joe Schmo down the road who's like barely making ends meet, but the president's son doesn't have to live up to the same standards? Which I think is where I get the most pissed off, is that you're the president's son. You're supposed to be setting the standard. The rest of the world is looking at our country like we're freaking idiots because we're just like letting him walk. Like, oh, don't do that again. Which, he's just going to go and do it again because he didn't get a fine. He didn't get anything. Of course, that is just added to the laundry list of other things that he's already done. We're not getting into the laptop. We're not getting into all these other, like his love child with his dead brother's ex-wife. No, that's not even right. He had a love trial with a stripper after he married his dead brother's ex-wife. Or widowed wife, excuse me, which I've mentioned in another episode. I'm just saying, like, of course they needed to cover this up. Let's all watch this submersible, or like, let's look for this thing because our president's son has fucked up yet again. And now we look like dummies here in America. Cool. Thanks. I actually am mad about this. Like, I don't care that he's Democrat or Republican. I don't give a fuck. I do care that you're the president's son and that we have a public image that is just ruined because you're out there just doing whatever you want. And also, this illegal possession of a handgun, you're telling me that you want to take away guns from law-abiding citizens, but your son can just, like, do whatever he wants to do? Like, he can just have guns all willy-nilly? He doesn't have to follow the rules. He doesn't have to go get a concealed carry permit. He doesn't have to, like, register his weapons. But the rest of us are going to have them taken away because... Why? Because we're law-abiding citizens who registered or who got the concealed carry permits? Look in your house first. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to go on a rant. It just really pissed me off. Because, again, you're the president's son, and the rest of the world is watching us. So, anyway, next is the Durham testimonies. So, John Durham is special counsel, and he scrutinized the origins of the FBI's investigation into the possible links between Russia and Trump during Trump's 2016 campaign. So Durham testified in front of Congress that the FBI showed confirmation bias and that the investigation had flaws. It was very flawed. He went on to say that no one had any real evidence of collusion. And in the article that I found about this, it said, quote, on Wednesday, Durham underscored that the production of the so-called Steele dossier, an opposition memo that included unproven accusations compiled by a former British intelligence officer, was funded by the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign, and was a deeply flawed record that was used by the FBI to secure surveillance warrants, end quote. So basically he's saying, like, they didn't want Trump to win, which is no surprise. I mean, they impeached the guy twice, and like now he's under scrutiny. He's like, they love to put him in the limelight again to cover up other things. When they have something important going on, they're like, let's throw something at Trump. Let's impeach him again. Let's throw, I don't know. Well, they're doing all kinds of things, but they keep Trump in the media, especially when they need to hide other things because he's such a controversial person, right? Half the country loves him, half the country hates him. I think it's third. I think there's a third that hate him, there's a third that love him. Those 2/3 are really loud. There's a third that just doesn't care. And that third is just like, okay, whatever. But people love, like, you have the lovers, and they're like, oh my God, they're after Trump again. You have the haters, they're like, oh good, get Trump again. And then you have the people behind the scenes, they're like, perfect, everyone's watching Trump. Now let's do some shady shit. So, I don't know what shady shit they were doing in 2016. Probably a lot of shady things. But now it's coming out that, the FBI fucked up. So, But in relation to that, the House passed a censure against Democratic Representative Adam Schiff. This is all happening last week while this thing is missing. So Schiff was a former Intel Committee chair and was censured over the comments he made during the investigations into Trump's campaign ties to Russia. So all this happened. So he was censured. So the censure resolution debukes Schiff for what is called his, quote, misleading the American public and for conduct unbecoming of an elected member of the House of Representatives, end quote. So they were like, yep, you're out of here. But again, like, if they're saying that the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign was funding this Steele dossier, well, Adam Schiff was on the Intel Committee, then it makes sense that, like, he knew what was going on. I'm just saying, if you're connecting the dots, these are the dots to be connected. So, but I bet you hadn't heard of that. Maybe you had. You guys are conspiracy theorists. Otherwise, you would not listen to me. So you're for sure like out there like, they're distracting us from something. On top of that, because, let's keep going with this Trump stuff because, again, they love to distract us. So then it makes me wonder what else happened, right? Like outside of that, whatever. News gets censored from social media in Canada last week. So Bill C-18 was passed on Thursday of last week, forcing social media outlets like Meta, Facebook, and Google to pay news outlets for posting their journalism on their platforms. And then, Facebook and Google of all places, right? So you like Googling something, you're not going to get any news. So you have to like switch browsers, you have to switch to whatever, all these different things. But if they have to pay, they're not going to post all these news stories. So now the Canadians are going to be completely misinformed, or not misinformed, uninformed. Which, like, if you're going to control a population, make them stupid first, I guess. Not stupid. I mean, Canadians are smart people. I mean, they probably have the same issues we have here, right? You have some smart people and some dumb people. That seems like one of our issues. I don't know. They'll try to figure out their news, or they'll just have to go back to watching the news at night, which nobody does anymore. But why would you do that anyway? Because it's all propaganda. Sorry, guys. I got really into this episode. Not lastly, I have so much more after this. So JP Morgan has to pay $290 million to Epstein victims. So we still don't have a list of the victims, although I do understand them wanting to stay anonymous. But Monday's settlement stems from claims filed last year by an unnamed woman. I forgot to say that this is a quote out of the article that I was reading, which, again, all that is linked in the show notes. You can go look at it. You can read all the things that I read. You can read more. So Monday's settlement stems from claims filed last year by an unnamed woman using the pseudonym Jane Doe, which I totally get it, right? That the bank knowingly benefited from and facilitated Epstein's sex trafficking operation. The woman who alleges she was raped and trafficked sued on behalf of a large number of other victims of that operation. So, yeah. The bank was like fully aware of it and just let it happen. Although eventually JP Morgan Chase did like make Epstein like stop using their bank, and then they went to a bank in Britain, which they also were sued, and they had to pay like $40 million, which I thought wasn't as much, but I'm thinking that the Epstein operation was closed down shortly after the transfer, which is why JP Morgan Chase had to pay a lot more. So yeah, we are going to do an Epstein episode, a Pizzagate episode. I think it's going to be multiple episodes. There's just so much that goes into it. And guys, I remember that I told you that I'm working on Kennedy. I'm still working on Kennedy. So love me through it. Let's talk about the USDA. So this happened during this whole submersible thing, but then also there's other things going on with the USDA. So I kind of just threw it all in here because they're just out there like being crazy, these people. They have approved lab-grown chicken to be sold. Yep, you heard me right. You don't have to actually like go raise a chicken, kill it, pluck it, get all the gross organs out of it. There's a lot that goes into killing a chicken. I know, I have chickens. But now you don't have to do that because they're just growing them in labs now. Companies, Good Meat and Upside Foods, out of California, of course, have been given the final approval to sell their lab-grown meats. Just so you know, both of these companies are funded and backed by Bill Gates. Yep, you heard me right, because we all know that Bill Gates is out there just buying up farmland, is the biggest owner of farmland in the country, and is completely against meat, basically. He's against anything that's hurting the environment. So because cows create greenhouse gases, he's completely against cows. He wants everyone to be basically like vegan. If he had it his way, we'd all eat lab-grown meat so we didn't have to slaughter the animals. Whatever. So this approval comes months after the FDA had already approved this meat for sale. As of last Wednesday, they are allowing 2 upscale restaurants, one in San Francisco and one in Washington, D.C., to serve lab-grown meat. So apparently there's been an increase in popularity of sustainable alternatives to slaughtered meat. So it's still meat because it was made from animal cells, but it comes without the slaughter of the animal, which, mind you, is a human instinct that like to kill, slaughter animals like our food for sustenance. And like every other omnivore and carnivore in the food chain does the same thing. But now everyone's like, oh, it's so mean to kill animals, so let's make fake animals and eat them instead. I don't know. What have they been eating up until this point? Will this lab grown meat make vegans not vegan anymore if they can eat this? Or will they only eat the lab grown meat at these restaurants? Because they do say it will be a while until we see this type of meat for sale in stores, because right now both companies have partnered with specific restaurants or chefs or whatever for the sale of this meat product. But just for context, 50% of Americans said they are unlikely to try lab-grown meat, which I'm part of the 50%. Honestly, I'd try it. I'd take a bite. I'd want to know, does chicken taste like chicken? Or does it taste funky because it's lab grown? But then I'd wonder, like, what is this doing to my body? Like, what did they put into this meat? I'm starting to question the food sources of the food industry a lot lately. It's really on my mind, which you're going to hear when I get into the rest of this. While we are on the topic of the USDA, which this isn't like current. Current enough. It's from basically like October of last year. They want you to register your garden. Yep, you heard me. So they are marketing this in a way to basically like help the community, which tells me that they're going to come and take your food when they deem it necessary for the greater good, whatever that means, right? Oh, and they'll send you this cool little sign that you can put in your yard saying that you've registered your garden, so everyone around you knows that they can come steal your food too. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, I highly encourage you to have a garden, grow your own food for your family, and also, like, if you have enough and you would like to, maybe share it. Or can it, freeze it, whatever you want to do to keep it for the wintertime. Because that's what we used to have to do when we didn't have stores just down the road. We used to have to grow our own food, can it, store it, keep it for the winter when we had no food, nothing was growing. So, I don't know. Do whatever you want with your food. It's your garden. I wouldn't suggest registering it. You do you. I'm not telling you what to do. Absolutely not. I'm just suggesting that your food might become public domain because they've decided. But like, also, why do they care? Like, why do they need to know that we have gardens and what we're growing? They also wanted us to register our backyard chickens, and this goes as far back as like 2015. They're like, yep, register your chickens. You got chickens? Register them. Of course, with the egg shortage, they like reinvigorated their like registration of chickens. But anybody else find it suspicious that like they want you to register your chickens, but they're burning down factories, like farms where millions and millions of chickens are dying? Chickens that produce food or like eggs and meat for everybody, for the nation. But now I have to register my chickens? You have to register your chickens? I don't know. Seems a little fishy to me. So, last thing I want to talk about while we're talking about our food, because I really got into it. And then I decided, you know what? This is a lot of information. And then the other things I was going to like include AI, and we're going to talk about the war in Ukraine. I didn't even have time for that in this episode because I got so into this USDA and this like distraction. So while we're talking about food, why are they selling so many things without seeds now? Don't tell, I got it, right? It's convenient. It's so much more convenient when you bite into your watermelon and it's seedless, so you don't choke on a seed or you don't accidentally eat a seed. We've all seen the Magic School Bus where like the kid ate a watermelon seed and then a watermelon grew. And we've all been told that lie when we were kids, like, hey, if you eat a watermelon seed, a watermelon will literally grow in your belly, which we all know is false now. But how cool would that be? But like it's strange how much they're pushing seedless fruits, vegetables, whatever. So I just came home from a family reunion. And we always do a watermelon seed spitting contest every year. Every year we do this. This year, the family was on the hunt for a seeded watermelon because we literally couldn't find them anywhere. I'm talking 160 people show up to this thing, and they're from at least 8 states, minimum 8 states. And they all come to the one little spot, and we all get together, and we're like, hey, we're family, woo. We sing a song. We have like 2 family songs because like who doesn't have a family song? And we have a watermelon seed spitting contest, and we do a couple meals together, and everybody's happy and jolly, right? Mostly. A lot of drinking. This year, everyone's like freaking out because we can't find a seeded watermelon. They're like, how are we going to do our watermelon seed spitting contest that we've been doing for, I think we're going on 33 years now, because we don't have a watermelon. Well, the crisis was averted because someone had a friend with a garden that grew a watermelon, and we got to enjoy our contest, right? Like we had a seeded watermelon because it came from a backyard garden where they're still growing regular old watermelons with seeds. Eat around the seeds or use the seeds and spit them. I didn't enter because I lose. So in case you're curious, I'm not going to be entering that contest. But watermelon's not the only fruit that's seedless. You've got seedless grapes, oranges, bananas, the list goes on, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Go to the store. Tell me how many things have seeds in it now. Because it's so much more convenient for you as the consumer to not have seeds in your things. In fact, my husband prefers like non-pitted olives, and gets mad when I buy the pitted ones. I have a hard time finding like olives with pits. He thinks they're crunchier. I don't know. But not only that, but have you ever attempted to plant the seeds from the non-organic produce you get at the store? Have you ever tried that? Like, got a bell pepper, not organic, just like regular bell pepper. It's like 79 cents. You bring it home. You're like, cool, let me just like dry these seeds out, do what I need to do, make sure they're good, and I'm going to plant these. Because it's like a win-win, right? So you're getting the produce. You're going to eat the fruit anyway. We eat a lot of bell pepper in my house, so I'm always snacking on it. Why not grow some? Since I'm buying it, why buy a packet of bell pepper seeds when I can just buy a bell pepper, try out the seeds, now I can grow bell pepper, and I have a delicious snack. Win-win, right? Well, I tried it. I tried it because I was like, yep, I want to plant my own bell pepper. I'm going to grow these things, so that way next year when I'm hungry for bell pepper, I'll just have one here. They don't grow. Like at all. They just don't. They don't grow. They don't. The seeds don't work. It's weird. What are they doing to my vegetables, in this case, that I can't grow the fruit that it comes from? Since when is that a thing? Like you go, I don't know. You have to buy the organic kind, and even the organic kind at the store, like I'm not trusting that at all. So you have to find like a local person in your area to buy produce off of. We have farmers markets around here, but I'm pretty sure the produce still isn't coming from like local places. Like our local places are pretty far away from where I'm currently at. I need to find like someone real close that I can like trade with. You know, I don't know. I'll mow your lawn. You give me some bell peppers to snack on. Seems like a win-win to me. But I thought that was weird. I actually like I saw a Instagram video about it and I was like, wow, I didn't like I've always known that. Like I've always known like you can't plant the seeds because I tried. You can't the seeds are no good. And that we had that watermelon thing, but it like finally like all clicked together when I saw this video and I was like, you're right though. Like nothing has seeds anymore and I can't use those seeds even if they do have them to actually grow something. Why do they not want the public to grow their own food, to fend for themselves? Why do they want us so reliant on them? It's part of the Great Reset. I know this. You know this. I just get annoyed, you know? And I've been doing a lot of research into our food lately. So we're like on a strict diet around here. My husband loves it. It's not that strict. I'm just like being more cautious about like, where are things coming from? What are we putting into our bodies? And I try not to think about it when I eat something bad because I am pregnant and sometimes I just want something not good for you. Like Waffle House. I know. Don't laugh. Pregnancy cravings are real and I needed a waffle. But not a homemade waffle because those are delicious. But not the same. I need a Waffle House waffle. So, anyway, I kind of went on a tangent this week. I really got into it. So I don't know. I was feeling it. So thank you all for listening. As always, stay skeptical. And next week, guys, I'm going to have another show for you. So I'll see you then. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Balaha, for our awesome intro.